First, I would like to thank Next Century Cities for such a fabulous lunch. Thank you, Deb. Appreciate it. Larry, I have the privilege of introducing Larry Strickling. His full bio is in the packet. I will be just giving a high-level overview here. Larry Strickling is Assistant Secretary and NTIA Administrator. Larry was sworn in June of 2009 as Assistant Secretary for Communications and Information at the U.S. Department of Commerce. His focus includes leading initiatives to expand broadband access and adoption across the U.S. and ensuring the Internet remains an engine for continued innovation, economic growth, and free speech. Please join me in welcoming Larry.
Well, thank you, Doug. So I hope you all enjoyed the morning. This is our 6th regional broadband workshop, and we're joined in this effort by our partner Next Century Cities, led by Deb Socha. So how about a nice round of applause for Deb and her work. So together, we've assembled experts, and you've heard many of them already, and you're going to hear more this afternoon from local government, state government, federal government, industry, to give you information that hopefully you will be able to use to meet the many challenges of expanding broadband access and adoption. And let me just ask, how many of you this morning learned something or heard something that you're going to be able to take back and work on after you leave? That's great. I think that shows the power of doing these workshops. And we've seen that everywhere we've been across the country. And so we've had a great turnout here. We've had a great turnout wherever we've done these. And I think that's reflected in the importance of this issue. Now, Mayor Ed Murray this morning asked for a stronger federal partner to help communities in their broadband efforts. And I'm here today to offer NTIA as your partner and to urge you to take advantage of our expertise on these issues. And key to this effort is our new Broadband USA program, which offers technical assistance, guidance, and resources to communities across the country seeking to expand their local broadband deployment and adoption. We launched this program last year to build on the lessons that we learned and the best practices and collective wisdom that we gathered from our broadband grant program, and to leverage the federal investments that we had made through those programs. And today's Digital Northwest Summit is an important part of this new initiative as we travel the country to convene folks such as yourselves to study the broadband challenges they face and to explore potential solutions. And as part of this initiative, our technical assistance team is here to provide free one-to-one support to you today and tomorrow. And if you want to get some time with our team during our office hours tomorrow, please sign up at the registration table. Now, why is NTIA well positioned to help you? First off, we're passionate about ensuring that every American has access to broadband. Over the past 7 years, we've seen firsthand through our $4 billion grant program how broadband can stimulate economic growth and empower our people. Funded from money from the 2009 Recovery Act, we financed about 230 projects across the country that have built critical network infrastructure, opened or upgraded public computer centers, and established broadband adoption and digital inclusion programs. And our state broadband initiative program invested another $300 million to help states collect broadband data for the national broadband map and expand their own statewide broadband capacity. When we developed this program 7 years ago, we made a promise to the communities across the country. We promised that the Obama administration's investment in broadband would create jobs, stimulate investment and economic development, and open up new opportunities in employment, education, and healthcare. Most important, it would improve the lives of average citizens, and I'm proud to say we've delivered on those pledges. Our broadband grantees have deployed more than 116,000. It's gone up from the 114,000 David mentioned this morning, but we're over 116,000 miles of new or upgraded network miles. They've connected nearly 26,000 community anchor institutions, such as schools and hospitals, and they've installed or upgraded more than 47,000 personal computers in public access centers. and our grantees have enrolled hundreds of thousands of people as subscribers to broadband services. With our infrastructure projects, one of our major goals was to prime the pump for private sector investment by supplying critical middle-mile infrastructure that local providers could use to deliver affordable broadband to more homes and businesses. And that's why all networks built with Recovery Act dollars are subject to open access rules that let all other carriers interconnect with these networks on fair and non-discriminatory terms. We also encouraged our grantees to connect directly to the key anchor institutions in these communities due to the higher bandwidth needs of schools, libraries, and other institutions. It's still a little early to gauge the full economic impact of these investments, but we do have some early results. We commissioned an independent study from ASR Analytics to look at the social and economic impact of our broadband grant program. We released their report last year, and what this report found is that in only 2 years, communities that received our broadband grant funds experienced an average estimated 2% greater growth in broadband availability than non-grant communities. The report also concluded that the additional broadband infrastructure built by our grantees could be expected to create more than 22,000 long-term jobs and generate more than $1 billion in additional household income every year. The report also documented that community anchor institutions served by our grantees benefited from significantly increased speeds and much lower costs. As an example, the median price paid by libraries in the study was $233 per megabit per month before the grant program, with a median speed of only 3 megabits per second. But as a result of the grant program, that median price dropped to $15 per megabit per month, and median speed increased to 20 megabits per second. Here in Washington, the Northwest Open Access Network, NOAANet, is a great example of one of our successful projects. NOAANet used almost $140 million in Recovery Act funds to add more than 1,200 miles of fiber to its network, allowing it to reach some of the more remote regions of the state of Washington. It connected more than 300 community anchor institutions. NOAANet signed broadband wholesale agreements to provide new access to 50 providers, enabling these providers to offer faster and more affordable broadband to their customers. For example, we heard yesterday from the director of the Stevens County Information Services Department, who said that this project has helped improve the health and safety of the county's residents and has boosted economic development in this county. The county's public utility district has provided wholesale internet service to local internet service providers, which has enabled 2 local manufacturing companies in the county to expand their businesses and hire additional personnel. At the same time, the NOAANet network has allowed the county to provide mental health services to patients in the region through telemedicine. Another example is the Pend Oreille County Public Utility District project in the northeastern section of Washington. Using its $27 million grant, Pend Oreille built 585 miles of fiber, enabling 3 internet service providers to offer service to 5,000 residential homes. It also provided improved broadband access to 14 anchor institutions, most of which were medical and healthcare providers. Community Health Associates of Spokane partnered with Pend Oreille to improve healthcare delivery in the region. The network allowed patients to use broadband video and voice to communicate with a pharmacist and receive the appropriate prescription drug from a vending machine at a clinic in northern Pend Oreille County, which was more than an hour's drive from the nearest brick and mortar pharmacy. In addition to infrastructure projects, NTIA also funded $250 million of sustainable adoption grants. As we consider what's needed for broadband today, we cannot lose sight of the importance of adoption. Once the facilities are built, we need people to subscribe to use the service. And we've made great progress on this front over the past 7 years, but there is still more work to be done. Through our adoption programs, we have learned important lessons about what works and what doesn't. An important takeaway is that digital literacy is fundamental to sustainable broadband adoption. Our grantees around the country have demonstrated that successful digital literacy training must be tailored to the specific needs of the community and the individual. Based on our grants, we have developed a portfolio of innovative approaches to offering this training. Both sustainable broadband adoption projects and public computer center projects are reaching people who may never have even turned on a computer, a group that includes a disproportionate number of lower-income Americans, senior citizens, and member of minority groups, and teaching them how to navigate the internet, set up an email account, write a resume, and even apply for jobs over the internet. On the broadband adoption side, I want to highlight a $4 million grant to EdLab here in Washington, which used some of that funding to work with Seattle to bring resources to the city's public technology centers. Seattle was able to utilize its partnership with EdLab to expand services in housing authority sites, recreation sites, and community centers to serve Seattle's at-risk immigrant and refugee communities. Multilingual training and digital literacy classes were held to reach further into the Vietnamese, Chinese, Ethiopian, and the city's other immigrant communities. The Chinese Information and Services Center began a Mandarin language program that coupled computer technology with financial literacy training. Overall, EdLab opened or upgraded 22 public computer centers throughout the state and provided more than 150,000 hours of training to more than 26,000 people. As we move beyond these projects, we recognize that our target keeps changing. When we launched the Recovery Act grants in 2009, the Federal Communications Commission still defined broadband at a speed of less than 1 megabit per second. Today, the FCC recommends download speeds of 25 megabits per second. And using that rate, nearly 51 million Americans still do not have access to a wired broadband connection, and we can expect that need for speed only to continue to increase. But we are making measurable progress. Today, as you heard from John Morris, we've released new data from our census survey. This survey samples 53,000 households, and our new data shows that 75% of Americans are using the internet from any location, up from 71% in 2013. Demographic groups that have historically lagged in using the internet, such as senior citizens, minorities, and Americans with lower levels of educational attainment, also made gains in the last 2 years. Internet use among those aged 65 or older increased 5 percentage points in the last 2 years, and in that same period, growth in internet use among Hispanics and among American Indians and Alaska Natives also outpaced the U.S. population. Internet use among Hispanics grew 5 percentage points in 2 years, while use among American Indians and Alaska Natives grew 9 percentage points. As John mentioned, all this data is available to you on our website through our Data Central portal, which is an easy-to-use source for locating statistics and charting trends on computer and internet use over the past 20 years. Even though the Recovery Act grant program is complete, we continue to be a lead agency supporting President Obama as he continues to emphasize the importance of broadband. You heard David Edelman this morning talk about ConnectEd, launched in 2013, a public-private partnership to connect 99% of America's students to the internet within 5 years. Last year, the President followed up with Connect Home, an initiative aimed at expanding high-speed broadband to families in public housing across the country. And last March, the President created the Broadband Opportunity Council, made up of the key cabinet departments and agencies to determine what actions the federal government could take to eliminate regulatory barriers to broadband deployment and to encourage investment in broadband networks and services. Earlier this month, President Obama took another important step forward by announcing Connect All, the initiative to help Americans at every income level get online and have the tools to take full advantage of the internet. The President set the bold goal of connecting 20 million more Americans to broadband by 2020. And as part of that effort, NTIA filed comments on behalf of the administration with the FCC recommending that the Commission expand its Lifeline program to include broadband services. As part of the Connect All effort, NTIA provided an update on our Community Connectivity Initiative, which we had proposed as a Broadband Opportunity Council recommendation last fall. The initiative will empower communities across the country by giving them the tools they need to support and accelerate local broadband planning and deployment efforts. NTIA, in close collaboration with our partners, will create a comprehensive online assessment tool to help community leaders identify their critical broadband needs and to connect them with expertise and resources. The tool will provide a framework of benchmarks and indicators on access, adoption, policy, and use for communities. I'm excited to say that our partners include many of you in this room and from the region, including Next Century Cities, New America's Open Technology Institute, and the City of Seattle, as well as the towns of Kenmore, Oak Harbor, and SeaTac, Washington. In fact, since our announcement 2 weeks ago, many more communities and partners are indicating their support and interest in participating. And I understand we've signed up some more folks even in the last 2 days here in Washington, in particular the affiliated tribes of Northwest Indians and other groups that will be joining with us. And starting tomorrow here in Seattle, we'll be holding a workshop to solicit further feedback on this initiative, to bring more of you stakeholders into the process and work to develop the online assessment tool. If you want to participate in that, I think there's more information outside, and the staffer who's heading that effort, Laura Spinning's here today. Find her at a break and ask her for more information. NTIA's Broadband USA staff has been working with communities across the country, and we have heard time and time again the challenges facing communities to identify sources of funding for broadband and to know where to turn within the federal government for answers to these questions. One key recommendation of the Opportunity Council, which we are spearheading, is to create a portal for information on federal broadband funding and loan programs to help communities easily identify resources as they seek to expand access to broadband. This will help communities find broadband-related policy guidance and key agency points of conduct and best practices. But in the meantime, while you're waiting for our online portal to go up, we do have this print guide to federal broadband funding, which is available out front, and I encourage you to get a copy of that today. So in closing, my message to all of you here is that NTIA can help you. Our Broadband USA team wants to work closely with communities seeking to expand their broadband capabilities. We've learned a lot over the past 7 years, and we've learned that one thing we've learned is that there is no one-size-fits-all approach that works. We know every community has unique needs and challenges, and through our Broadband USA initiative, we're now leveraging that knowledge and expertise to help you and other communities in your broadband expansion efforts. So, do you need to sift through the labyrinth of government rules and grant programs? We can help. And as I said, take a copy of our guide available here today. Do you need to learn the best way to design and develop an adoption program in your community? Well, we can help. And you can take our Broadband Adoption Toolkit. Again, copies are available here today. Do you need advice on how to plan for and attract broadband investment in your community? Again, we can help. Our technical assistance ranges from workshops and webinars to more personalized one-on-one community assistance. And in the next few weeks, we will be issuing our planning guide to communities to help them improve broadband access and adoption. But as I said at the outset, you don't need to wait for the guide. Sign up to meet with our team tomorrow. And best of all, we're free. So let us know what sort of help your community needs, and our team will help you accomplish your goals. So thank you all for being here today. I look forward to the discussions this afternoon and to working with you to expand broadband access and adoption and support greater economic development for all citizens in the Pacific Northwest. Thank you for listening. Okay, so we have a choice. We're 10 minutes behind schedule. I can continue to make you further behind schedule by taking some questions, or we can move right to the afternoon breakout sessions. What do people want to do? I'm hearing no questions. Oh, wait, no, all right, we'll take one question and then we'll break out.
There we are.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Marcia Spellman. I'm from Portland. I have a company, Converge Communications, and we've been working with communities, helping them develop broadband telecommunications, public safety, other kinds of networks. And we did work with Warm Springs, and we were able to get an R award from RUS, but created Warm Springs Telecom with that award, and now serve that entire community with wired telephone and broadband, and it's an incredible success. But my question is, I think it was the first speaker, talked about being 98% 4G wireless. You mentioned about connecting the communities and connecting people with wired connections with fiber. I think my concern or my question, and he said 98% of the country has wireless connections. Well, it's not true in most of rural America, certainly not true on tribal lands. And I believe that we are, to get the broadband speeds that we need, or you're looking for, we need to have fiber, we need to have wired connections, and yet the FCC and the government is all going away from wired connections towards this wireless mobility world. So I think there's a split in, at least on the federal government, and I do a lot of work on regulatory issues. I see this big split between this push for wireless mobility, wireless broadband, which doesn't exist everywhere, and the real need to have fiber and wired connections throughout the country, and we're not focused on that, at least on a regulatory side. Can you comment on that, please?
So I think it's a multifaceted problem, and I'm not sure I would agree with your characterization that the federal government is favoring one over the other. There have been goals in both areas, and on the wireless side, the goal was to have 98% of the American population able to procure 4G within a certain period of time. And I think we've now hit that metric, but it's a population metric, not a geographic metric, which is why you can have large geographic areas in this country where that's not available, but those are also among the less densely populated areas, which is why the 98% holds. There's still, I think, a recognition that there has to be a strong fiber deployment, even to support that 98% of people using 4G, because you're only wireless for a very small portion of that communication, and you need very robust fiber networks in order to be able to provide the backhaul even in a wireless environment. But I think what we're finding is when we look at the individual, when we look at a typical family, that many, and we see this in our census data that we've been reporting on, we're seeing a trend where more and more people are able to access the internet and to download and surf and explore for the information they want using a wireless device. I think we need to reflect that, and we need to understand that as part of our policy making, is this greater importance that that handheld device is making for so many people. But it doesn't solve our problem with connecting anchor institutions. It doesn't solve our problem with bringing in the kind of bandwidth you have to bring into every community to support whatever infrastructure you're looking to support. That's going to be fiber-based, and it's got to be done the old-fashioned way by bringing the physical facilities into the communities. I think what you've seen in the last few years is a tremendous focus on this at the Federal Communications Commission through the programs that they operate. What you haven't seen is a further response from Congress beyond that initial Recovery Act dollars that we got in 2009, which we all knew at the time wasn't going to come close to solving the problem nationally. In fact, what we spent, the $4 billion, is a fraction of what industry spends every year to invest in their own networks. But there has been no appetite in Congress to continue to provide that kind of funding to let us explore where we might be able to make the kind of impactful grants that we made in 2009 and 2010. And so I think that's the gap that you're seeing, and that's simply one, I think, that reflects kind of the economics and the situation in Congress of not wanting to fund these types of projects any further. Okay, great. Deb, you'll tell people where to go. Thank you very much.
thank you so much for all that you do, Larry. And so our breakout sessions will begin at 1:30, which means you have a little bit of time to finish what you're eating, to get a dessert, right? Okay, to get a dessert and to network a little bit. And so let me tell you where each of these are. We're going to have the business models in this room. Models 101 will be in the sound room. Rural broadband applications will be in Cove. Partners in Innovation, uses in Washington State will be in Marina. And so if you're not sure how to get to any of those, when you get outside the room, there'll be folks to point you in the right direction. So there's a description of each of these in your packet, so feel free to take a look and see which one is of most interest to you. At the end of that breakout session, I understand we have a really good snack. So lunch was awesome, right? So hopefully the snack, oh, good to hear. We couldn't come to Seattle and not have salmon. It was really quite fabulous. But we have a great snack, and then we're going to hear from Brian Bell from Google Fiber, and then we'll have a final panel on financing. So relax, and 1:30 we get started on our breakouts. Thanks so much.